Hello, everyone. This is Sister Mary. We are in the book of Exodus. We will be reading chapters 1 through 5. Again, I am reading out of the Interlinear Bible, and this is the Hebrew and the Aramaic translation. God bless you. Exodus chapter 1. And these were the names of the sons of Israel who came into Egypt with Jacob. They each one came in with his house. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, and Benjamin, Dan, and Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. And all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, Joseph being in Egypt, and Joseph died, and all his brothers, and all that generation. And the sons of Israel were fruitful and increased very much, and multiplied and became very strong, and the land was filled with them. And a new king arose over Egypt, who had not known Joseph. And he said to his people, Behold, the people of the sons of Israel are more numerous and strong than we. Come, let us deal craftily toward them, lest they multiply, and it shall be that when war occurs, they will add, or also add to our enemies, and will fight against us, and go up from the land. And they put over them slave masters in order to afflict them with their burdens. And he built store cities for Pharaoh, Pithom, and Rameses. And as much as they afflicted them, so much they multiplied, and so much they spread. And they were afraid because before the sons of Israel. And Egypt made the sons of Israel to serve with harshness. And they made their lives bitter by hard work in clay and in bricks, and in all work in the field, and their work which they made them do with harshness. And the king of Egypt said to the midwives of the Hebrews, of whom the name of one was Sapphira, or Sifra, and the name of the second Push. And he said, When you midwife the Hebrew women, and look on the birth stools, if it is a son, you will kill him, and if it is a daughter, it shall live. And the midwives feared God, and they did not do as the king of Egypt said to them. And they kept the male children alive. And the king of Egypt called to the midwives and said to them, Why do you do this thing and keep alive the male children? And the midwives said to Pharaoh, Because the Hebrew women are not like the Egyptian women, for they are vigorous. Before the midwives come to them, they bear. And God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and became exceedingly strong. And because the midwives feared God, he made houses for them. And Pharaoh commanded all his people, saying, Every son that is born, you shall cast him into the river, and you shall keep alive every daughter. Chapter 2 of Exodus. And a man went from the house of Levi and took a daughter of Levi, and the woman conceived and bore a son. And she saw him that he was beautiful, and she conceived him 3 months, and she was not able to hide him any longer. And she took a basket for him made of papyrus, and she dabbed it with bitumen and with pitch. And she put the child in it, and placed it in the reeds by the lip of the Nile. And his sister took her stand from a distance to know what would be done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh went down to bathe on the Nile, and her maidens were walking on the side of the Nile. And she saw the basket in the midst of the reeds, and sent her slave girl, and took it. And she opened it, and saw the child, and behold, a boy crying. And she had pity on him, and said, This one is of the children of the Hebrews. And his sister said to Pharaoh's daughter, Shall I go and call a woman for you, a nurse of the Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for you? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Go. And the girl went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, Take this child away and nurse him for me, and I will give you your wages. And the woman took the child and nursed him. And the child grew, and she brought him to the daughter of Pharaoh, and he became a son to her. And she called his name Moses, and said, Because I drew him out of water. And it happened in those days, even Moses was grown, and he went out to his brothers and looked upon their burdens. And he saw an Egyptian man striking a Hebrew man of his brothers. And he turned here and there and saw that no man was there. And he struck the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And he went out on the second day. And behold, two men, Hebrews, were fighting. And he said to the guilty one, Why should you strike your neighbor? And he said, Who appointed you as a man, a prince, and a judge over us? Are you saying to kill me, as you killed the Egyptian? And Moses feared, and said, Surely the thing is known. And Pharaoh heard this word, and he sought to kill Moses. And Moses fled from before Pharaoh, and lived in the land of Midian. And he sat down by the well. And 7 daughters were born to the priest of Midian. And they came and drew and filled the troughs to water their father's flocks. And the shepherds came and drove them away, and Moses rose up and saved them, and watered their flocks. And they came to their father Reuel. And he said, Why have you hurried to come today? And they said, An Egyptian man rescued us from the hand of the shepherds, and he also drew for us and watered the flock. And he said to his daughters, And where is he? Why then have you left the man? Call him and let him eat bread. And Moses consented to live with the man. And he gave his daughter Zipporah to Moses, and she bore a son. And he called his name Gershom. For he said, I have become an alien in a foreign land. And it happened during these many days that the king of Egypt died, and the sons of Israel groaned from slavery. And they cried, and their cry went up to God from the slavery. And God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham, with Isaac, and with Jacob. And God saw the sons of Israel, and God knew them. Chapter 3 of Exodus. And Moses was feeding the flock of his father-in-law Jethro, the priest of Midian. And he led the flock behind the wilderness, and came to the mountain of God, to Horeb. And the angel of Jehovah appeared to him in a flame of fire, from the middle of a thorn bush. And he looked, and behold, the thorn bush was burning with fire, and the thorn bush was not burned up. And Moses said, I will turn aside now, and see this great sight, why the thorn bush is not burned up. And Jehovah saw that he turned aside to see. And God called to him from the midst of the thorn bush, and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, I am here. And he said, Do not come near here. Pull off your sandals from your feet, for the place on which you are standing is holy ground. And he said, I am the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he feared to look upon God. And Jehovah said, I have certainly seen the affliction of my people, who are in Egypt, and I have heard their cry from before their slave drivers. For I know his sorrows, and I have come down to deliver them from the hand of Egypt, yea, to deliver them from that land to a good and broad land, to a land flowing with milk and honey, to the place of the Canaanite, and the Hittite, and the Amorite, the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite. And now, behold, the cry of the sons of Israel has come to me. And also I have seen the oppression within, or with which the Egyptians oppressed them. And now go, and I will send you to Pharaoh, and you bring out my people, the sons of Israel, from Egypt. And Moses said to God, Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh, and that I should bring out the sons of Israel from Egypt? And he said, I will be with you, and this shall be the sign for you that I have sent you. When you bring out the people from Egypt, you shall serve God on this mountain. And Moses said to God, Behold, I shall come to the sons of Israel, and say to them, The God of your fathers has sent me to you. And they will say to me, What is his name? What shall I say to them? And God said to Moses, I am that I am. And he said, You shall say this to the son of Israel, I am has sent me to you. And God said to Moses again, You shall say this to the sons of Israel: Jehovah, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and this is my title from generation to generation. Go and gather the elders of Israel, and say to them, Jehovah, the God of your fathers, has appeared to me, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, saying, I have surely visited you, and have seen what is done to you in Egypt. And I have said, I will bring you up from the affliction of Egypt to the land of the Canaanite, the Hittite, the Amorite, and the Perizzite, and the Hivite, and the Jebusite, to a land flowing with milk and honey. And they shall listen to your voice, and you shall come in, you and the elders of Israel, to the king of Egypt. And you shall say to him, Jehovah, the God of the Hebrews, has met us. And now please let us go for a journey of 3 days into the wilderness, and let us sacrifice to Jehovah our God. And I know that the king of Egypt will not permit you to go, not even by a strong hand. And I will stretch out my hand and strike Egypt with all my wonders, which I will do in its midst. And afterward he will send you away. And I will give this people favor in the eyes of Egypt. And it will come to pass when you go, you will not go empty. For each woman shall ask of her neighbor, and from the stranger in her house, articles of silver, and articles of gold, and garments. And you shall put these on your sons and on your daughters, and you shall plunder Egypt. Chapter 4 of Exodus. And Moses answered and said, And behold, they will not believe me, and will not listen to my voice. For they will say, Jehovah has not appeared to you. And Jehovah said to him, What is this in your hand? And he said, A staff. And he said, Throw it to the ground. And he threw it to the ground, and it became a snake. And Moses fled before it. And Jehovah said to Moses, Send out your hand, and take it by the tail. And he sent out his hand, and caught it, and it became a staff in his hand, so that they may believe that Jehovah, the God of their fathers, has appeared to you, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. And Jehovah said to him again, Now put your hand into your bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and he brought it out. And behold, his hand was leprous like snow. And he said, Put your hand back into your bosom. And he put his hand back into his bosom, and he brought it out from his bosom, and behold, it had turned like his flesh. And it shall be, if they will not believe you, and will not listen to the voice of the first sign, that they believe the latter sign. And it shall be, if they will not believe these two signs also, and will not listen to your voice, you shall take of the water of the Nile, and pour it on the dry land. And the water which you take from the Nile shall become blood on the dry land. And Moses said to Jehovah, O Lord, I am not a man of words, either from yesterday or the third day, nor since. You have been speaking to your slave, for I am heavy of mouth and heavy of tongue. And Jehovah said to him, Who has made the mouth of man? Or who makes one dumb or deaf or seeing or blind? Is it not I, Jehovah? I now go, and now go, and I will be with your mouth, and will teach you what you shall speak. And he said, O Lord, please send by the hand of him whom you will send. And the anger of Jehovah glowed against Moses. And he said, Do I not know your brother, Aaron the Levite, that he can speak well? And behold, he also is coming out to meet you, and he will see you and be glad in his heart. And you shall speak to him, and you shall put the words in his mouth. And I will be with your mouth and with his mouth, and I will teach you what you shall do. And he shall speak for you to the people. And it shall be, he shall be a mouth for you, and you shall be a God for him. And you shall take the staff in your hand by which you do the signs. And Moses went and returned to his father-in-law Jethro, and said to him, Please let me go and return to my brothers who are in Egypt, and see whether they are still alive. And Jethro said to Moses, Go in peace. And Jehovah said to Moses in Midian, Go return to Egypt, for all the men are dead, those seeking your life. And Moses took his wife and his sons and set them on an ass. And he returned to the land of Egypt, and Moses took the staff of God in his hand. And Jehovah said to Moses, As you go to return to Egypt, see all the wonders which I have put in your hand, and do them before Pharaoh. And I will harden his heart, and he will not send the people away. And you shall speak to Pharaoh. So says Jehovah, my son, my firstborn is Israel. And I said to you, Send my son away and let him serve me. And you refused to send him. Behold, I am about to kill your son, your firstborn. And it happened on the way, in the lodging place. Jehovah met him and sought to kill him. And Zipporah took a stone and cut off her son's foreskin and caused it to touch his feet. And she said, You are a bridegroom of blood to me. And he pulled back from him. Then she said, A bridegroom of blood for the circumcision. And Jehovah said to Aaron, Go to the wilderness to meet Moses. And he went and met him in the mountain of God. And he kissed him. And Moses told Aaron all the words of Jehovah with which he had sent him, and all the signs which he had commanded him. And Moses and Aaron went on and gathered all the elders of the sons of Israel. And Aaron spoke all the words which Jehovah had spoken to Moses. And he did the signs before the people. And the people believed. And they heard that Jehovah had visited the sons of Israel, and that he had seen their affliction. And they bowed and worshipped. Exodus chapter 5. And afterward Moses and Aaron came in and said to Pharaoh, So says Jehovah the God of Israel, Send away my people, and they shall feast to me in the wilderness. And Pharaoh said, Who is Jehovah that I should listen to his voice, to send away Israel? I do not know Jehovah, and I also will not send Israel away. And they said, The God of the Hebrews has met with us. Now let us go on a journey of 3 days into the wilderness, and sacrifice to Jehovah our God, that he not strike us with plague or with sword. And the king of Egypt said to them, Moses and Aaron, why do you loose the people from their work? You go to your burdens. And Pharaoh said, Behold, the people of the land are many now, and you make them cease from their burdens. And Pharaoh commanded the slave drivers of the people and their overseers that day, saying, You shall not go on giving straw to the people to make bricks as yesterday and the third day. They shall go and pick up straw for themselves, and the fixed number of bricks which they were making yesterday and the third day you shall put on them. You shall not diminish from it, for they are idle. So they are crying, saying, Let us go, let us sacrifice to our God. Let the bondage be heavy on the men, that they may work in it, and may not trust to the lying words. And the slave drivers of the people and their overseers went out and spoke to the people, saying, Pharaoh has said this, I will not give you straw. You go take straw for yourselves from wherever you may find it, for not a thing will be reduced from your work. And the people scattered in all the land of Egypt to pick up stubble for straw. And the slave drivers were demanding, saying, Finish your work, the matter of a day in its day, as when there was straw. And the overseers of the sons of Israel were beaten, those whom the slave drivers of Pharaoh had put over them, saying, Why have you not finished your appointed task to make bricks as a day ago, and the day before, both yesterday and today? And the overseers of the sons of Israel came in and cried to Pharaoh, saying, Why do you do this to your bondslaves? No straw is given to your bondslaves, and they are saying to us, Make bricks. And behold, your bondslaves are stricken, but your people are at fault. And he said, Idle, you are idle. On this account you are saying, Let us go, let us sacrifice to Jehovah. So now go serve, and straw will not be given to you, and you will give a quote of bricks. and the overseers of the sons of Israel saw themselves in evil, saying, You shall not diminish from your bricks the matter of a day in its day. And they met Moses and Aaron, standing to meet them when they came from Pharaoh. And they said to them, May Jehovah look on you and judge, who have made our odors to stink in Pharaoh's eyes, and in the eyes of his servants, to give a sword in their hand to kill us. And Moses returned to Jehovah and said, Lord, why have you done evil to this people? Why then have you sent me? And since I came into Pharaoh to speak in your name, he has done evil to this people, and you did not certainly deliver your people.